Be me, 31, marriage counselor in Austin, Texas. Specialize in helping couples navigate intimacy issues and sexual disconnect. Masters in clinical psychology, 8 years experience with over 500 couples. My practice focuses on teaching women to set healthy boundaries, particularly around sexual expectations and bodily autonomy. Core philosophy: women should never feel pressured into unwanted intimacy. No means no applies in marriage just as much as dating. My job is empowering wives to own their sexuality without guilt, teaching them that withholding sex is valid boundary setting. Husbands need to respect women's autonomy over their bodies. New client couple arrives for intake session. Wife is 29, husband is 32, married 6 years, 2 young kids. She requested the appointment, says they need help with intimacy issues. Husband looks defeated, won't make eye contact. Classic pattern of male sexual entitlement I've seen hundreds of times. Wife explains the problem from her perspective. He's always wanting sex, like every day or multiple times per week. I'm exhausted from work and taking care of the kids. I tell him not tonight, but he acts hurt and distant. I need him to understand my body is mine and I decide when. This fits my theoretical framework perfectly. Husband showing classic signs of sexual coercion. Wife rightfully asserting boundaries over her body. He needs to learn that marriage isn't consent on demand. Plan to help her maintain boundaries despite his pressure. Ask husband about his perspective on the situation, expecting defensive justifications or minimizing her concerns. Instead, he's quiet for a long time, then speaks carefully. I'm not trying to pressure her. I just miss feeling connected. It's been 4 months since we've been intimate. I feel like roommates, not partners anymore. 4 months seems excessive, but maybe there's valid reason. Postpartum recovery, medical issues, trauma history. Ask wife about barriers to intimacy beyond just being tired. She shrugs. I'm just not in the mood most of the time. I don't think about sex like he does. It's not important to me. No medical issues, no trauma. Kids are 3 and 5 years old. She's just not interested in physical intimacy with husband, but wants him to be fine with indefinite celibacy. Start to feel like maybe this isn't just about her boundaries. Husband continues. I've tried everything she's asked. I do more housework, help more with kids, plan date nights, buy her gifts, tell her she's beautiful. But nothing changes, she's never interested. His voice cracks. I feel like I'm begging for my wife to want me. Wife rolls her eyes. See, this is the pressure I'm talking about. I shouldn't have to have sex just because he does chores. That's just basic partnership, not something I owe him for. My instinct is to validate her boundary setting, but something about his devastation makes me pause. This doesn't look like entitled man demanding sexual access. Looks like rejected partner desperately seeking connection. Maybe I've been too quick to frame this as male entitlement. Ask wife if she experiences sexual attraction to husband. Does she miss physical intimacy or want it to return? She thinks about it. Not really. I'm fine without it. Sex just feels like another chore on my to-do list. Husband's face shows this isn't new information to him. Over next few sessions, pattern becomes clearer. She's been rejecting his advances for over a year. Initially said she was too tired, needed help with housework. He stepped up significantly, now does 50% of domestic labor. But her interest in intimacy didn't increase at all. He tried initiating less frequently to reduce pressure. She said she needed more romance and emotional connection. He planned date nights, love notes, meaningful conversations. Still no improvement in physical intimacy. Went to marriage retreat, read books she recommended. Started therapy individually to work on himself. Lost 30 pounds, bought new clothes, upgraded grooming. Every change she requested, he implemented. Nothing worked. She's still not in the mood. Start to realize wife is moving goalposts constantly. Every time he meets one requirement, new excuse emerges. Pattern of avoidance disguised as boundary setting. She doesn't want to work on intimacy issues. She wants him to accept permanent sexless marriage. Husband admits he's at breaking point. I can't live like this anymore, feeling unwanted and rejected. I'm not asking for anything crazy, just normal physical connection. But I feel like pervert for wanting to be intimate with my wife. Wife responds, so you're saying if I don't have sex, you'll leave? This triggers my trained response about coercion, about to intervene and validate her boundaries. But something stops me. His complete emotional breakdown. He's crying, saying, "I don't want to leave. I want you to want me. Just once. I want to feel like you actually desire me." Wife's response chills me. "That's manipulative, using emotions to pressure me. I've told you I'm not interested. You need to accept it. If you can't handle that, maybe we're not compatible." She's completely unmoved by his obvious pain. After session, I sit with uncomfortable realization. My framework about male sexual entitlement may be incomplete. This man isn't trying to violate her autonomy. He's experiencing profound rejection and emotional abandonment. Her boundary setting has become weapon to avoid intimacy entirely. Start researching sexless marriage phenomenon in literature. Find studies showing 15 to 20% of marriages are sexless, less than 10 times yearly. Greater than 70% of these situations initiated by wives withdrawing sexually. Primary reason given: just not interested or too busy. Husbands in these marriages show signs of depression, low self-worth. One study particularly striking: men in sexless marriages report feeling unwanted, unattractive, like failures as partners. Physical rejection interpreted as personal rejection. Many develop anxiety and depression. Some contemplate suicide over romantic isolation within marriage. Research on female sexual desire reveals complexity. Responsive desire versus spontaneous desire models. Many women don't feel desire until after sexual activity begins. But if they never engage, desire never emerges. Waiting to feel like it can mean waiting forever. Realize I may have been giving harmful advice to wives, telling them to only have sex when they spontaneously desire it. For many women, that means almost never. Creating sexless marriages justified as boundary setting, while husbands suffer in silence. Next session, try different approach with couple. Ask wife about her understanding of husband's experience. She responds, "He needs to get over it. Sex isn't everything. Plenty of marriages survive without it. He's being dramatic about something that doesn't matter." Push back gently. "It clearly matters to him. Does that concern you?" She shrugs. "He knew I had low libido when we married." Husband interjects, "We had sex 3 to 4 times a week when dating. You were interested then. What changed?" Wife gets defensive. "I have kids now. I'm tired. You're being selfish expecting me to perform on demand." Frames sexual intimacy as performance and demand, reveals her mindset. She sees it as service she provides, not connection they share. Ask hypothetical. If he said he wasn't interested in emotional conversations anymore, that talking about feelings was exhausting and he didn't want to do it, would you feel rejected and hurt? She admits, "That's different. Emotional connection is important." Point out double standard. Why is emotional connection important, but physical isn't? He's telling you physical intimacy is how he feels connected. You're dismissing his needs as less valid than yours. She pauses, clearly hasn't considered this perspective. Husband adds, "I don't want sex. I want to feel wanted by my wife. To know that you choose me and desire me. Right now I feel like you tolerate me at best." This vulnerability seems to penetrate her defenses slightly. Over next several weeks, work with her on understanding sexual intimacy as emotional connection, not just physical act. How consistent rejection damages partners' sense of self-worth. That, "not tonight," 100 times in a row becomes emotional abuse. Boundary setting versus emotional withdrawal distinction. She starts to see how her behavior affected him. "I didn't think about it from his perspective. I just knew I didn't want to, so I said no." Didn't realize how much it was hurting him. First sign of empathy emerging after months of therapy. But then adds, "But I still don't want to have sex I don't desire." That would feel like giving in to pressure. Still framing intimacy as something she does for him, not with him. This mindset shift proving difficult to change. Introduce concept of responsive desire. That she may need to initiate physical contact without feeling spontaneous desire. Arousal often follows engagement rather than preceding it. Many women report enjoying sex once it begins, even if not initially interested. She's resistant. "That sounds like forcing myself. I shouldn't have to do things I don't want to do." But I counter. "Do you always feel like doing emotional labor? Do you always want to have deep conversations when he needs them? You do those things because you value connection." Husband shares that he does many things he doesn't feel like doing. "I don't always feel like going to work, but I do it for our family. I don't always want to have conversations about your day, but I listen. I don't naturally want to watch romantic movies, but I do because you enjoy it. Partnership requires doing things outside our comfort zone. Wife begins to understand that marriage involves reciprocity. She expects emotional availability from him even when inconvenient, but refuses physical availability for him under any circumstances. This double standard is destroying their marriage. Start seeing similar patterns with other couples in my practice. Multiple wives using boundary-setting language to avoid intimacy. Husbands increasingly depressed and desperate for connection. My advice to support female autonomy may have enabled this dynamic. Need to reconsider my approach to sexual dynamics in marriage. One couple particularly heartbreaking. Married 10 years. Wife hasn't initiated intimacy once in 8 years. Rejects husband's advances 95% of the time. He's developed severe depression and anxiety. Contemplated suicide multiple times from feeling unwanted. His wife genuinely confused. I thought I was doing right thing. My friend said I should never have sex I don't want. That my body is mine and I don't owe him anything. She internalized empowerment messaging as permission for permanent rejection. Ask her, do you want to stay married? She says yes. She loves him and wants their family together. Then what do you think happens when you reject someone you love for years? When you make them feel unwanted and undesirable constantly? She hasn't thought past her own discomfort to his emotional needs. Another couple, married 5 years, sexless for past 2 years. Wife says she's just not a sexual person anymore. But husband found evidence she's sexually active online. Engaging in explicit chats, sharing photos, watching content regularly. She's sexual, just not with him. This case reveals wife's attraction to husband has died. She's not low libido, she's low libido for him specifically. Using "not tonight" as gentle rejection when reality is harsher. Not tonight really means not you, not ever. Husband deserves honesty rather than indefinite false hope. Start asking wives direct questions about attraction. Many admit they're no longer physically attracted to husbands, but don't want to hurt feelings or end marriage. So they maintain pattern of rejection disguised as boundary setting, slowly destroying their partner's mental health. Research shows men in sexless marriages have higher rates of depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, suicidal ideation, physical health problems, substance abuse, risky behaviors, emotional affairs, or physical infidelity as desperate connection attempts. Eventually complete emotional withdrawal or divorce filing. One study follows men through sexless marriage progression. Year 1 to 2, confusion and increased effort to please partner. Year 3 to 4, depression and decreased self-worth. Year 5 to 6, anger and resentment building. Year 7 plus, complete emotional detachment or exit planning. The "not tonight" pattern becomes psychological torture. Each rejection reinforces message, you're not desirable. Over months and years, destroys man's sense of worth. Creates learned helplessness and relationship trauma. Eventually he stops trying. Marriage becomes roommate situation. Realize my therapeutic approach has been enabling this damage. By framing all female sexual boundaries as valid autonomy. Without considering impact of permanent rejection on partners. I've been helping women destroy their marriages with my blessing. Need to completely restructure my practice philosophy. Start teaching different framework to female clients. Yes, consent is essential and no means no always. But marriage requires consideration of partners' needs too. Sexual intimacy is legitimate need, not entitled demand. Persistent rejection is emotional harm, not empowered boundary setting. This new approach meets resistance from some clients. One wife angry. Are you saying I have to have sex or I'm abusing him? Clarify. I'm saying persistent rejection without addressing issue is harmful. If you're not attracted to him, that's honest conversation to have. But leading him on indefinitely while refusing intimacy is cruel. She admits she hasn't been attracted to him for 3 years, but doesn't want divorce for financial and family reasons. So she maintains marriage while denying him physical connection. This is having cake and eating it too at his expense. He deserves partner who actually desires him. Work with her on honest conversation about attraction loss. Options: work on rebuilding attraction, open marriage, or divorce. Continuing current pattern isn't sustainable or fair. Husband deserves to know real situation, not endless, not tonight's. They eventually divorce, painful but honest. Another wife realizes she's been using sex as control mechanism. I didn't think about it that way, but you're right. When I'm happy with him, I'm more willing. When I'm mad, I shut him out physically. Using intimacy as reward/punishment is manipulative. Help her see pattern of wielding sexual access as power. This creates transactional dynamic rather than connected partnership. He feels like he's constantly auditioning for her approval, walking on eggshells to maybe earn physical affection. This damages both partners and relationship foundation. Start teaching wives about responsive desire models. Many don't understand their own sexuality, waiting for spontaneous desire that rarely comes. But willing to engage leads to arousal and enjoyment. Sometimes, not tonight, needs to become, okay, let's try. One client has breakthrough with this concept. I realized I never wanted to have sex before we started, but I almost always enjoyed it once we got going. By always saying no, I was preventing myself from enjoying it. She starts saying yes more often. Their intimacy returns. Her husband's depression lifts dramatically. His confidence returns. He's more engaged in marriage. She's surprised how much her rejection was affecting him. I didn't know he was taking it so personally and deeply. I thought he was just horny, didn't realize it was about feeling wanted. This breakthrough replicates across multiple couples. When wives understand emotional component for husbands, that physical rejection feels like personal rejection. They're more willing to engage even without spontaneous desire. Marriages improve dramatically across intimacy and emotional connection. But some wives genuinely have lost attraction permanently. For them, continuing to reject while staying married is cruel. Honest conversation about lack of attraction more ethical. Either work intensively to rebuild it or acknowledge incompatibility. Husband deserves partner who desires him. Wife deserves authentic attraction. Research on attraction in long-term relationships reveals physical attraction naturally fluctuates over years. Requires active maintenance through effort and attention. Many wives let themselves go while demanding husband stay attractive. Double standard contributing to sexual disconnection. One client admits she gained 60 pounds since marriage. Stopped exercising, dressing attractively, basic grooming. But expects husband to stay fit and attractive for her. Can't understand why she's not in the mood anymore. Own physical changes affecting her libido and confidence. Work with her on self-care not for him, but for herself. Regaining confidence in body improves sexual confidence. She starts exercising, dressing better, feeling attractive. Sexual desire returns as she feels better about herself. Attraction in marriage requires mutual maintenance. 6 months into new therapeutic approach, seeing dramatic results. Couples who were headed for divorce rebuilding intimacy. Husband's mental health improving significantly. Wives understanding responsive desire and emotional component. Lower divorce rate among my clients. Most powerful success story, couple from intake session. Wife started engaging physically even without initial desire. Found that arousal and enjoyment followed engagement. Husband's depression completely resolved. They're now thriving, emotionally and physically connected. She admits, I almost destroyed my marriage with not tonight. I didn't understand I was rejecting him, not just sex. Now I see physical intimacy as investment in our connection. I may not always start out wanting it, but I always end up glad we connected. But also have cases where honest conversations led to divorce. Some wives just not attracted to husbands anymore. Better to acknowledge this than continue indefinite rejection. Husbands freed to find partners who actually desire them. Painful, but ultimately healthier than slow emotional death. One divorced husband tells me a year later, that sexless marriage was killing me slowly. I thought I was the problem, that I was disgusting. Now I'm with someone who actually wants me. The difference in my mental health is night and day. Research broader cultural messaging about female sexual autonomy. Critical of how empowerment language weaponized against intimacy. Yes, consent is essential and bodily autonomy is fundamental. But marriage involves considering partners' legitimate needs. Persistent rejection without resolution is emotional harm. Social media full of posts celebrating wives who reject husbands. I said not tonight, and he respected my boundary, proud of him. Comments. He's one of the good ones. So many men don't respect no. But nobody asks, how often does she say not tonight? Is this occasional boundary or pattern of permanent rejection? Reddit forums full of husbands in sexless marriages. Describing depression, suicidal thoughts, feeling trapped. Wives using bodily autonomy language to justify permanent rejection. These men drowning in rejection while society tells them they're entitled. Their pain dismissed as male sexual entitlement. One post particularly devastating. Been rejected by wife every day for 2 years straight. I stopped trying 6 months ago. She hasn't noticed. I feel like I'm dying inside but can't tell anyone. Society says I'm wrong for wanting intimacy with my wife. Comments from other men sharing identical experiences, all describing crushing rejection and isolation. Wives happy with sexless marriage, husbands suffering. Many planning exit strategies or contemplating suicide. This is epidemic nobody's talking about. Mental health crisis among married men in sexless relationships. Therapists not trained to address this male-specific suffering. We validate female boundaries without considering male emotional needs, creating situations where good men are destroyed by persistent rejection, all while calling it empowerment and healthy boundary setting. Start speaking about this issue at professional conferences. Mixed reactions from fellow therapists. Some female therapists resistant. You're pressuring women into unwanted sex. But male therapists and some female ones validate observations. Finally, someone's talking about this pattern. Present data showing outcomes of persistent rejection. Male depression, suicide rates, marriage dissolution statistics. How not tonight, said repeatedly becomes psychological torture. Need for balanced approach that honors both autonomy and partnership. Cannot sacrifice one partner's mental health for others' comfort. 1 year into new therapeutic framework. Marriage satisfaction scores significantly improved. Divorce rates down among couples willing to address intimacy. Mental health outcomes better for rejected partners. More honest conversations about attraction and compatibility. The devastating truth I learned through clinical practice. Not tonight becomes not ever for too many couples. Wives using boundary language to avoid addressing intimacy issues. Husbands slowly destroyed by persistent rejection and isolation. Society validating female rejection while ignoring male suffering. Pattern of rejection in marriage. Year 1. Not tonight, I'm tired. Year 2. Not tonight, I'm stressed. Year 3. Not tonight, I don't feel connected. Year 4. Not tonight, without explanation. Year 5. He stops asking, she doesn't notice. Year 6. They're roommates, not partners. Year 7. Divorce or lifetime of mutual misery. What not tonight really means over time. To wife, valid boundary setting and bodily autonomy. To husband, you're not attractive, desirable, or wanted. After months/years, this marriage is over emotionally. Eventually, there are no more nights left. My journey from empowerment advocate to relationship realist. Started believing all female sexual boundaries are healthy. Learned that persistent rejection is emotional abuse. Discovered balance between autonomy and partnership needs. Truth about marital intimacy more complex than feminist slogans. Current mission helping couples navigate intimacy honestly. Teaching responsive desire models to wives. Validating rejected husbands' emotional pain. Creating framework for honest attraction conversations. Building intimacy through connection, not just spontaneous desire. The heartbreaking reality of not tonight in marriage. Each rejection chips away at partner's self-worth. Over time, creates emotional distance that destroys marriage. Many men suffering in silence from persistent rejection, while society tells them they're entitled for wanting connection. Final truth that transformed my therapeutic practice. Bodily autonomy doesn't mean immunity from relational consequences. Persistent rejection without resolution damages partnerships irreparably. Physical intimacy is legitimate need, not male entitlement. Marriage requires considering both partners' needs equally. Too many couples learn too late that not tonight, said enough times without resolution, eventually becomes there are no more nights. Because he's gone, emotionally withdrawn, or filed for divorce. And the marriage that could have been saved is just another statistic.